Nudie Cohn was born Nudie Kotlyrenko.
You're kidding.
On December 15th, I'll get to what he is. On December 15th, 1902, in Kiev, back in what Putin considers the good old days, when it was part of the Russian Empire and riddled with Jewish pogroms. But what's great for Putin's predecessors, the Tsars of Russia, was not good for the Jewish Kotlyrenko family. So this is another tiny Jewish fashion designer.
Oh, cool.
In Los Angeles.
Artie. I don't know if Edith ever reclaimed her
Jewish
Jewishness.
name.
I think she was kind of conservative Christian woman, but you know.
Oh yeah, but did she, we're not talking about Edith Head anymore.
No, we're done there. Yeah.
Interestingly, this guy also had a sort of switching of teams, but we'll get to that. When Nutia was just 2, a pogrom broke out in Kiev where 110 Jewish people were murdered in his town.
Wow.
But constant discrimination and occasional murder was just a way of life back then for Nutia's parents. His dad, a bootmaker, supposedly making boots for Tsar Nicholas II himself.
Oh, great.
Which
cool.
He made them extra lickable for Putin's ancestors. And his mom was raising and selling geese.
You could sell geese? Okay, go ahead.
What do you...
I don't know. I guess both parts are weird.
Why get the milk when you can have the geese for free? In Greg's opinion, he loves geese milk.
He loves, forget the eggs.
Give me that yummy white. So there were 2 essential parts of little Nutia's upbringing. 3 if you count the pogroms.
Yeah.
The first was that at age 8, Nutia went to work as a tailor's apprentice.
Okay.
The second was that his mom, to make extra money, ran the concession stand at the local movie theater. And much like my mom dropping me off to sit at the Dairy Queen my sister worked at while she was working, little Nutia would sit in the theater all day watching the movies while his mom was working. So he would just sit there watching movies. And in between showing Battleship Potemkin for the 400th time, this theater would occasionally get their hands on an American Western movie.
Ooh.
And Nutia was transfixed.
Me too, bro.
I remember the first time I saw City Slickers too, Nutia.
He's looking at horses. He's like, those geese are so big.
Those look like they would produce delicious milk. And then he sees one part of it. Oh yeah, delicious milk.
No one tell you Milton Berle is in this movie.
What is this, Edith Head's funeral? So American propaganda movies were way better than Russian ones. So at age 11, with tailoring abilities and romanticized notions of America in his head, Nutia's parents sent him and his brother Julius all alone to move to America to escape the anti-Jewish sentiment in Russia to the then less violent anti-Jewish sentiment of America.
It's like turning the dial down from like 10 to 6.
Yeah.
But not off, though.
This is like a D+ level of anti-Semitism compared to that unrefined anti-Semitism of Russia. So these 2 children started their journey outside of Russia and were quickly arrested and sent back to Kiev.
No, really?
They tried again, and this time it took, and they were on a boat for New York City.
New York City.
When they got to Ellis Island, their name was shortened to Cohn, and Nutia's first name was misheard and registered as Nudie. So now we have an American tale, Nudie Cohn.
Wow. I thought that was a moniker he might have taken.
No.
He's just stamped with that.
But why would the guy mishear one hard to understand to an American name and be like, oh, so your name's Nudie, the name that we all know and love?
Oh, yeah, no, those definitely not overworked Ellis Island workers.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Oh, the poor Ellis Island.
Oh, yeah.
You just love authority.
I love name changes. It's so funny that you're like, why would they do that? Oh, because they were doing that all day, every day.
But why would they change it from Nutia? Like, it could be like, oh, you're Nathan. But they misheard like, oh, you're Nudie. All right. That makes sense.
Weird day. You got the weird guy at Ellis Island.
Yeah, he was a little kooky. That analogy will hold even truer as the story goes. This guy, an American tale, Nudie Cohn.
Right.
They found a place to stay in the glorious new country with family in Brooklyn and settled into a life of abject poverty.
Cool.
Nudie couldn't even afford shoes, so one of his teachers gave him some mismatched shoes they found, and at home, his host family took advantage of his tailoring abilities and made him make them free clothes.
Wow.
Hey, at least they didn't make fun of him for being Jewish.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
You can abuse this child, but don't abuse him for being Jewish.
He looked at his brother at one point and said, "It beats a pogrom," as they were both up at 4 a.m. to make new socks for their host family. At some point in this stage of his life, he became a runner boy for none other than Mr. Whoopi himself, Eddie Cantor.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
This story you're about to hear is not only the best story in this whole thing, but a recurring nightmare for you and me also. So one day he got the courage to tell Eddie Cantor that he himself wanted to be a performer and that he had actually learned how to play the mandolin. And Eddie Cantor said, "Okay, get yourself cleaned up and tomorrow I'm giving you your big break." A classic showbiz story was about to happen.
My teeth are chattering and I can't stop it.
A classic showbiz story to us and our experiences in show business.
Yeah.
So the next night he had Nudie on his show, Eddie Cantor's show, and Eddie Cantor introduced him, and Nudie walked out on stage with his mandolin, completely froze in stage fright, didn't play a single note, and walked off stage while everybody laughed at him. That's
like Nightmare Year One.
No,
that's where all shame comes from this one Nudie Cohn event.
Right. Yeah. This is like there's archetype nightmares, and we don't know. Like humans are just born knowing them, and we don't know why. This is why we have this nightmare.
It manifested from
it
there.
Was so
it wasn't a
humiliating.
thing before. Yeah.
What happened to Nudie was so mortifying. All humans are now born with that nightmare.
With the programming now.
So from here, he decided, I'm going to get out of town and travel the country for a little.
That's the only. Oh, he made that decision. That's the only thing you could do.
Yeah, we've all had that impulse.
Yeah.
So he took up odd jobs, shining shoes and things like that, going around the country. The 5'7" man, a little bit taller than Edith Head, became a boxer for a while, known as Battling Nudie, which could also have been the slogan for ancient Greece. Supposedly, he was connected to Pretty Boy Floyd during this stint of his life also.
Oh, wow.
Then in 1918, he was paid $5 to deliver a package in Ohio that turns out was filled with cocaine, and he was sent to jail in Kansas for 9 months.
Whoa.
Yeah. Once he was again free to do whatever it was that he was doing, he decided to try his hand out in Hollywood.
Sure. As most people
who just got out of
prison
jail
for cocaine, I'm going to go to Hollywood.
And that's how we got Brad Bird, John Lasseter. He had always loved Westerns, so why not try moving as west as he can go? And maybe, if he was lucky, recapture some of that magic from the Eddie Cantor show.
The mandolin went on to great fame, though, but
the mandolin shuffled back out on stage after that and said into the microphone, "That was awkward," and then played The Devil Goes Down to Georgia level mandolin playing, which wasn't a mandolin, but famously not a mandolin.
But my brain is just mixing the two up right now, and I'll take it.
You've never seen The Devil's Golden Mandolin? So supposedly he was an extra in a few silent movies, but his main income was he opened up a tailoring shop in Hollywood in 1922, with one of his customers being Gloria Swanson. He also tried his hand at film editing, which is as close to tailoring as you can get in movie work, but he was not good at it and ended up following a young aspiring starlet he was in love with back home to his second home of New York City. So he failed in Los Angeles, and he's back in New York City.
Sure. And the starlet isn't anybody that we know.
No, it's another failure.
Sounded a little bit like we're
No. It was another failure who another nameless failure. Yeah. His performance at Eddie Cantor was so bad, anyone he fell in love with's career ended.
Yeah, it's a stain that moves across his personal history.
So he's back in New York City, and then the Depression hit. He decided to start roaming the country once again as a Depression-era hobo until he found himself in a boarding house in Mankato, Minnesota. This was where he met the true love of his life, the blonde bombshell, the daughter of the boarding house's owner, the many and scary named Helen Bobby Barbara Kruger.
Oh my God.
Claws in, Kruger. Meow.
Say the name again.
Helen Bobby. Bobby is a nickname. Helen Bobby Barbara Kruger.
Okay, thank you. You said it, and if you asked me to repeat it right after you said it, I would have said Millie Bobby Brown.
I know. Any name with Bobby in the middle is going to be Millie Bobby Brown to me.
Yeah, Millie Bobby Brown Voorhees.
But She felt like her career was floundering, so she added another famous name onto her name. So Helen Bobby Barbara Kruger, get out of my dreams. Seriously, you're killing me. The two wooed each other and were married by 1933, and back in New York City, in 1934. They moved back to New York City.
Okay, New York City.
So this was New York City. So this was when Nudie decided to embrace part of his upbringing full force and open not just a tailoring shop, but a clothing shop where he would design and make the clothes.
Okay.
But not just any clothes. Clothes for strippers, burlesque dancers, and sex workers.
3 of my favorite occupations.
Nudies for the Ladies opened in 1934, which is a perfect name for what he's selling.
Yeah.
Just off of Times Square, also perfect location, and catered specifically to those professions by offering flashy and erotic things like embroidered skirts and G-strings covered in rhinestones.
Killer.
Which, this is 1934, and to think of a G-string existing in 1934 is earth-rattling.
Sure. It makes me rethink what I think of 1934.
Yeah. So now imagine Edith Head from The Incredibles in her youth was wearing a rhinestone covered G-string, because that was just what you did back then.
The soldier getting back from fighting World War II grabs the nurse, kisses her without her consent, and behind them is a store that sells G-strings. It changes my idea of the boys coming back home.
Carefully cropped that picture, much like the G-strings, carefully cropped. So he ran the place with Bobby Kruger, but as the 30s went on, burlesque shows started going out of favor and business started drying up. So they switched to being a dry cleaner until Nudie decided once again the West was calling. So he and Bobby closed up shop and permanently moved back to Los Angeles in 1939.
Every time that he moves, it's because somebody's like, hey, were you on that Eddie Cantor show? And he's like, I think it's time to move.
I think the world's oldest profession has failed. The West is calling.
The West is calling. Yeah, the West is calling for sure.
Hey.
You're the guy with that mandolin, aren't you?
It's Mr. Mandolin.
The mandolin comes in with a big fur coat and 2 women attached to its arms.
Yeah, getting into a limousine in Times Square.
I think it's time to go west.
So they set up shop, by that I mean their home, in a little bungalow across from Hollywood High School. And then they set up shop, by that I mean a shop, in their garage.
It's now the In-N-Out.
Where,
A lot of people don't know that.
Those arches were his original design. They used to be covered in rhinestones.
Arches. It's a arrow.
It's 2 G-strings, you idiot. I'm thinking of the arched palm trees, but yeah.
I know. Okay. Yeah.
In-N-Out's famous, the golden arches of In-N-Out, right? So they start in their garage. Nudie started making clothes to sell. And it wasn't anything fancy, just wool shirts and some pants that he'd sell for $19 each. Not a single G-string to be found.
Yeah.
G-strings made out of wool.
The only G-string is the one on the mandolin. Go ahead.
They say that you relive your trauma. We only talk about him making G-strings. He also made F-strings, E-strings, D-strings.
Yeah. Nobody brings those strings up.
Those aren't as erotic. Eventually, they moved to a new house on La Brea and then into the glorious Valley, either in North Hollywood or Arleta, but I'm sure at the time it was the same place.
Right, yeah.
But Nudie kept a loft on Hollywood Boulevard that he would do his tailoring out of.
Okay.
But then in the mid-40s, the unthinkable happened, and America was thrown into turmoil. Nudie got a hernia.
No! How will we survive this? What will we tell our boys overseas?
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for Nudie's hernia. I know that was 20 years later, but I can't remember what FDR told the country to cheer them up. Elect me a 3rd time and don't look at my legs.
We're not talking about them today.
Yeah. Don't mind this wool blanket over my lap.
Yeah.
It's an original Edith Head. And everyone's like, oh, wow.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
So he had to have surgery and he had no insurance. So he was now broke and on the verge of having to move back to New York City and abandon his beloved West once more. Which it's funny that it's like, I can't afford to live in Los Angeles. I'm going to go move back to New York City.
New York City, yeah. Where they welcome me. They give you a free apartment as soon as you get there.
Yeah. I know a guy at Ellis Island. He's really wacky. I think he would let me in.
Yeah, he takes letters off my name every time I introduce myself to him, though. It's kind of weird.
But this time he wasn't going to let that happen. He's not going to move back to New York City. Too many people saw the Mandolin Show. He decided he needed to take a big swing to give himself some financial stability rather than just making pants for people on Hollywood Boulevard.
Sure.
He needed to make clothes for people of note. And more than just that, he needed to make clothes that were distinct. Clothes that had style. Clothes that were absolutely outrageous and borderline ugly, but actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
So the year's now 1947, and the man Nudie decided to start his new venture with was a not that well known at the time, but up and coming country singer named Tex Williams.
Okay. I don't think I know Tex Williams.
Oh, you don't know Tex Williams? No. It's more of a name that sounds famous, I think. He killed Sharon Tate.
I was just about to make the joke. I think he was a Manson member.
Yeah.
The most famous singer in the Manson group, which Manson was not very happy with. I know Tex
and
Ritter.
that's saying a lot in the Manson family. He had a hit, like a novelty country hit.
Okay.
But he was kind of, he was one of those early singing cowboy kind of guys.
Sure.
But Nudie somehow found out where he lived and ran up to him one day while he was mowing his lawn and pitched him an idea, which, hey, kids listening, always good advice.
Yeah. Track down these movie stars when they're outside.
Run up to them on their lawn.
Grabbing their mail. Yeah. Grabbing their mail.
With your hand in your pocket, pointing at them. Run up to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Manifesto sticking out of pocket.
Make sure you're holding a copy of Catcher in the Rye. So he pitched him this idea. If Tex could give him $150 to buy the proper equipment, Nudie would make custom suits for him and his entire band that would be flashy and give them a visual signature that he argued would jumpstart his career.
Sure.
Tex agreed, but the problem was Tex Williams was also broke, so he had no money. And he had to auction off one of his horses, and now the money was all Nudie's.
Oh my God.
That horse, Mr. Ed. He went on to be Mr. Ed. He was the Pete Best of Tex Williams' band.
So Tex Williams and Nudie Cohn, they decide they got to go find where Rick Rubin's mowing the lawn. So both of them go to Rick Rubin, and Rick Rubin's like, this is a great idea, but I'm so broke. So the three of them go.
It was a real Wizard of Oz situation. They just which is just a story of a broke girl picking up broke people along her way home to make money.
I know someone who has $5 to help us out, and it's the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. I swear this guy's rich, and then they get there and he's just pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, and he's like eating cat food. I'm sorry, I don't have any money for you either.
I'm sorry. Hey, I stole this out of the dumpster fair and square.
Now, Nudie wasn't the person to put country singers in garish suits.
Okay.
Because this is an image we have of the singing cowboy in these, frills, lace, right? Not lace, but rhinestones, colors.
Embroidery. Flashy colors.
So he wasn't the first one to do this, Nudie. So the first group to be doing that were the Maddox brothers and Rose. But as we'll soon see, Nudie became the one to make the unholy union between country singers and outrageous suits stick.
Right. What year was this? Was he pushing for this?
This was 1947 or late 40s.
A little earlier than I thought, but maybe he gets successful at the prime of the late 60s, mid 60s, 70s.
This is the Edith Head syndrome, where you think it's one era, but it actually spanned several eras.
Right. Okay.
So now everybody was really excited. Nudie was embarking on a new strain of his career, and Tex was hopefully about to do the same, and they had the money. Because of this, when they got together to take the band's measurements, it turned into a party where everybody got drunk, so all the clothes came out the wrong sizes, and Nudie had to get more money and do it all over again.
Wow. Wow.
I think I know where Roy Rogers rides his bike.
Maybe party after the measurements. I don't know. Maybe I'm a square.
You're going to tell a cowboy when to party?
You're going to tell a cowboy when to measure?
Nobody tells a cowboy when to party. But when he got the sizes right, it was a big hit, and Tex's career started to take off, and Nudie thought, well, if that's the style people want, then I'm going to give it to them in spades. Spade cooley. His philosophy in fashion became, it's better to be looked over than to be overlooked.
Right. Yeah.
Which is, I like, just doing the research on Nudie Cohn, I'm like,
yeah,
I need to buy cowboy. I need to buy cowboy boots that are like covered in snake eyes.
You can't. Here's the thing with that. You can't. That's funny. You can't just buy cowboy boots. It has to be the whole thing.
I know.
You can't just like wear just like you're a member of the Strokes or whatever, like you, and then like have cowboy boots.
You know, for many years I've been slowly gathering what I need to have a good Zorro costume for Halloween.
Yeah.
This is our October episode, so I can say this.
Yes.
So I was thinking, well, I don't have black boots, and I need black boots. I should just get black cowboy boots. And then I'm like, well, if I get black cowboy boots, I gotta get a
whole suit.
I gotta get a crocodile skin suit.
Zorro, the country singer. It was Zorro, Bobby Gentry, Glenn Campbell.
Yeah, Zorro Jr.
Zorro Jr.
Zorro Williams Jr.
Tex-Mex Zorro.
So his reasoning was for his passion for fashion was, my impression of an entertainer is he should always wear a flashy outfit to be fair to the public. He shouldn't be wearing a sport coat like the people in the audience. The costume is the first impression and it should be flashy.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is something we've always, like whenever we've done a live thing, we've always been like, well, what are you wearing?
Yeah.
Because we want to, let's just say it, we want to dominate the audience, and it starts with a leather suit.
Yeah, it starts with the Eddie Murphy red leather suit. That's how the audience will differentiate who the talent is and who is a plebe off the streets and nobody.
So after Tex's suits started catching people's eyes, two big names came to him next, looking to make a similar impression. Gene Autry and Roy Rogers.
Wow, original singing cowboys.
So yeah, these are, I mean, as far as singing cowboys go, these are big names.
These are the singing cowboys, capital S, capital C.
Nobody sang harder, nobody cowboyed harder. Than these two. So specifically Roy Rogers, who wanted one of Nudie's suits because he was performing at Madison Square Garden and he wanted to wear something that even a kid sitting in the nosebleed seats would be able to see.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
What he wanted was fringe covered in rhinestones, Nudie's specialty, and this look became Roy Rogers' signature look that he's remembered by. So like it's like trying to describe air.
Roy Orbison?
It's like trying to describe Jonathan Winters, Roy Orbison, famous albinos is what I'm saying.
Famous albinos of history.
It's like trying to describe something that you just know it as, the look of Roy Rogers was made by Nudie.
Right.
So from here, between both these guys, Roy Rogers and Gene Autry's TV shows, other singing cowboys and wannabe singing cowboys saw these, what became known as Nudie suits on TV, and wanted some of their own. So this combined with Nudie and Bobby hanging out at the honky tonks around the valley, not least of all the Palomino.
I was about to bring that up, yeah.
And making friends with country musicians all over town put Nudie Cohn as the guy for cowboy fashion.
What year was this that they came calling for him?
This was like the early 50s at this point.
Okay, that also makes sense.
When America just couldn't get enough singing cowboys.
No, we won the war. We wanted singing. That's what we fight. That's why we fight, boys.
We didn't climb the Reichstag and plant a singing cowboy on top for nothing.
When we got to the Eagle's Nest and we destroyed Hitler's bunker, we were singing the Cowboys song.
Who was there? Gene Autry.
Lasso.
When those boys in blue or whatever they wore planted the flag on Iwo Jima, who was with them? Tex Williams, Spade Cooley. This is like the picture of the people in the diner, and it's Marilyn Monroe and James Dean, but it's the flag of Iwo Jima picture, and it's Gene Autry, Roy Rogers.
It's Nuremberg. It's time to hang the Nazis, and a lasso comes over the thing, and it's
the last thing Goebbels heard was "Hi ho, Silver."
The neighing of Silver as it's about to run away. You keep bringing up Spade Cooley because it's a cool name to say, but you know that cool.
He was murdered by a shovel, as I thought, because his name's Spade.
Oh,
but what were you going to say?
That's funny. You should look into what crimes he might have committed because they're pretty awful.
Okay. Oh, good. He was murdered then.
Kind of.
You know what? Good for the murderer. And you know who killed him? Nudie Cohn.
Continue. Sorry.
So the significance of this shift in cowboy fashion, it can't be overstated because it completely changed the mythos of the cowboy of the old American West, from the tough guy in a duster who can light a match on a horse to Marty McFly in Back to the Future 3.
That's very funny. That was something that it took me a long time to understand. But
it's so confusing.
It's very confusing.
There's like what cowboys look like, and then there's what we imagine cowboys look like, and it's because of Nudie Cohn. Like this fake image of what a cowboy was is because of this 5'7" Jewish man from Kiev.
Yeah, of all of my understanding of real like cowboy Western Americana, and then.
Thinking of
the fictionalized
Billy the Kid wearing rhinestones in the shape of a rattlesnake.
Exactly. And I thought the whole thing about being a cowboy was like being like, I'm just like a humble little farmer. And then for them to come out with rhinestones with like a bright pink thing with embroidery everywhere, and they're like, I'm a humble little cowboy, but look at this suit. But eventually I'm like, oh no, it turns out I actually really like that.
Yeah, so it turned our image of cowboys into men who sang and wore brightly colored fringe and rhinestones. So he completely reworked one aspect of the iconography of America. Like his failure at the Eddie Cantor thing archetyping the nightmare into all of us. He retconned America's memory of cowboys as looking like Gene Autry.
That's what he took from us. We took a little from him. He took a lot from us. I want him to have like win an award and go on like the Lifetime Achievement Award, and he's on stage to grab it, and then someone's like, wait. There's a hush. You're not the guy from the Eddie Cantor thing, right? And I think I'll move to Japan this time.
What's further west than west? He went so far west, he went east.
Korea.
Yeah. At that same ceremony, they were giving the mandolin a Lifetime Achievement Award. It was a real honor to play this G string in front of everybody. As his business got bigger, he felt unprofessional running it out of his garage and a loft in Hollywood. So by 1949, going back a little bit, he had opened up an actual storefront at 11000 Victory Boulevard in North Hollywood called Nudies of Hollywood.
Wow. Do you know what there is there now?
I think it's a car rental place, but I passed by this. It's across the street from a Target and a restaurant called the Crispy Pork Gang.
Oh, okay. Do you get the gut jumped in to get a meal or what?
You get to the chicharrones knocked out of you. Yeah, it's right off of, I think, Lancashire. But yeah, I think it's just a car place. But Bobby helped sew stuff in these early days and was also the inspiration for their logo when one night, things are getting steamy again. X-rated, cross-stitching.
Yeah, cross-stitching, got it.
One night, Bobby came into their bedroom wearing nothing but a holster, boots, and a cowboy hat.
Oh, boy.
And she said something like, what are you going to... She said something like... I spilled chili all over my pants. She said something like, when are you going to make the rest of this suit, big boy, or something?
Yeah. Something sexy, but not that.
Yeah. And then he said, I've got it. Rhinestones. And he ran out the room.
My dear boy. Yeah.
He ran. Wait till Tex William hears about this. So their logo was a topless cowgirl for a while, until 19, like nipples and everything. Like you could see.
Yeah. Full.
Everything, Greg.
You could J to it. Yeah.
This is why his clothes weren't allowed anywhere around schools. It was the logo until 1963 when Nudie converted to Christianity, and suddenly cowgirls learned shame, and he put a skirt and a top on her.
Oh, he had to change his name too.
Yeah,
to the Clothes Cohn. Yeah,
Clothy Cohn. Burqa Cohn.
Yeah, 2 jackets on a hot summer day Cohn.
But 1963 was the same year that they outgrew even that store in North Hollywood and moved to 5015 Lancashire and renamed themselves to Nudie's Rodeo Tailors. 5015 Lancashire is, I think, across the street or diagonally across the street from the world's famous Ha Ha Club.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
World famous Ha Ha Club.
World famous Ha Ha Club.
You go to Russia and you say Ha Ha Club, they're like Lancashire Boulevard. And you're like, you know where it's at.
So now they're Nudie's Rodeo Tailors, and this was the store that was almost as legendary amongst a specific community as the Palomino Club was just a few miles away.
Right.
So out front, it had a life-size plastic horse, and on the roof were 2 bucking broncos, so you knew what you were getting into.
Oh, yeah, you're not going to go in there. I'm looking for some like school uniforms for my kid. Like that's no.
When you come in here, you greet me with a yee-haw.
Yeah, there's only one kid I dressed, and that's Feifel when he went west.
I was going to say Billy the. The only bills we take here are buffalo. The only holidays we take are dock holidays.
The only holidays we take off are dock holidays.
Yeah. And that is legally binding. So it was always a party in there in this store with drinking involved, and jam sessions would break out all the time amongst the musicians, and ever present was Nudie's world famous lima bean soup.
The most cowboy soup we can think of.
The most Ukrainian cowboy soup. What a better thing to eat around a bunch of custom-made clothing than lima bean soup. There were even a few radio shows that were broadcast out of the store.
Wow.
And the musicians that were counted among his list of clients were anybody who was anybody in the world of country, and then eventually beyond. You had your classic singing cowboys like the canceled Spade Cooley, canceled in my mind, since you told me, Porter Wagoner, Lefty Frizzle, and Hank.
Oh, I like Lefty Frizzle.
Hank Williams.
Oh, the original Daddy Hank Williams?
The original Hank Williams.
Wow, scumbag himself. We do like him, though.
Not as bad as his son, but
Twice as bad as his grandson. No idea about any of the progeny of Hank Williams, but I like Hank Williams a lot.
You know, I was talking with Carl Tart about Nudie because this is right up Carl Tart's alley, and he
buys hats. Yeah,
he buys hats, and he told me what Hank Williams did was he wrote a rebuttal song to Colin Kaepernick taking a knee during the national anthem, and it was called something like if you're gonna it's called Take a Knee, Take a Hike. That's what it's called. Yeah, so that's the legacy of the Williams name.
Wow.
Anyway,
shame.
Yeah. So Hank Williams, though, the better
Daddy.
one,
Daddy
he
Williams.
designed a classic white suit covered in musical notes for him, which you might have seen in old pictures. It's pretty cool. Then you had a different sort of country singer with Johnny Cash. He made clothes for him. Then they were all more subdued, but still in a little bit of the Nudie style.
It's weird to think that Hank Williams was the more flashy one, and even though he is like closer to being a rural cowboy, and Johnny Cash in movies and Columbo episodes, like dial it down a little bit. Dial it down.
Yeah. I thought you were supposed to be sad. Then as country music itself started to change, the new guard still kept coming to Nudie for their clothes because that was just the look of a country singer. People like Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, and Tammy Wynette. Then you had the people who bridged the gap from country to rock and roll / popular music like Linda Ronstadt and Glenn Campbell, who it is said wrote Rhinestone Cowboy about Nudie Cohn.
Whoa, really? His biggest hit? Mm-hmm. That's great.
Then, of course, there was Graham Parsons, whose look he helped develop and who was like a son to Nudie.
Wow, really?
He made for him his suit it was embroidered with pill capsules and marijuana leaves. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've seen that one, yeah.
Of course. I mean, what else would he be wearing?
Yeah, no, that's Graham Parsons' brand.
Yeah, Mr. Joshua Tree himself. So much so that he never left Joshua Tree. Of course, he was wearing that. So then he had the more rock and roll / pop customers. Of course, you had Mike Nesmith,
right?
Monkey
himself,
David Cassidy,
right?
And Cherry Garcia himself, Jerry Garcia, Aretha Franklin, Sonny and Cher, Lou Rawls, Dean Martin, John Lennon, Jimi Hendrix, Robert Plant, and Keith Richards, who bought boots covered in rubies. Ruby Boot Day. So close. That's when he picked it up. It's
that Ruby
Nudie
Boot
calls
Day.
him. It's Ruby Boot Day. Again, these are living with your cat alone for a week.
That's like
jokes.
What's the car sale that finds a way to squeeze Armageddon in?
Carmageddon.
Yeah. That's that. Go ahead.
So a little later, he had ZZ Top and David Lee Roth. Elton John wore a Nudie suit for the cover of the single of Rocket Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Maybe his most famous creation was for the slayer of Imhotep himself, Elvis.
Oh, yes. Wait.
Which one are you thinking of? Not the white one. No. Although maybe that might have been. I'm not sure. But Elvis commissioned Nudie to make the gold lame suit that is on the cardboard cutouts everywhere.
Oh my God. Yeah, I do know that one.
So that golden suit.
Is that like...
It's like 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong.
Yeah, that's the one. That's
the one on the cover of that. That was made by Nudie Cohn.
Oh, wow. I love that.
Well, okay. So this was the most expensive suit Nudie ever sold. He charged him $10,000 when in reality, Nudie is not Rumpelstiltskin and this suit is not made out of real gold and it cost $50 to make. Oh. And he sold it to him for $10,000.
All profit. Elvis could afford it.
I'm sure the Colonel, which I think he was friends with the Colonel. I'm sure he was like, just charge him $10,000. Make it out of burlap. He's not going to know. So then there was the crossover into the Hollywood crowd, and he also was making clothes for Hollywood productions. He did all of Roy Rogers and Dale Evans' clothes for their Republic Studios movies. He did Robert Redford's costume in The Electric Horseman.
Okay.
Which I had never heard of, but
me neither.
When you look at a screenshot, you know it's a Nudie.
That's a Nudie. Yeah, I'm looking at a Nudie.
Yeah, look up Nudie movies right now.
To specify, just put Nudie Cutie into like a Google image search,
and then after that, put Patootie also. Nudie Cutie Patootie movie. So now here's two just for you, Greg. In case I didn't win you over with the Electric Horseman, he did the costumes for the movie, not the woman. The movie. Head.
Oh, okay.
The Monkees movie written by Jack Nicholson, which we saw together, which is really good.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Way better than a monkey movies has any business being.
You're breaking Marge Simpson's heart right now, but that's fine. It's okay. I'll let you go on.
And so here's the second thing. He did the hats and shirts for the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was really exciting to learn.
That's pretty cool.
So then
Goober's outfit, totally nudie.
Goober's hat. Can't you tell it's a nudie? That Jughead, that ripped up Jughead hat.
Yeah.
So then just on a day-to-day level, people who were wearing his clothes were the Eternal actor Ronald Reagan, Sylvester Stallone, Charlton Heston, Goldie Hawn, Tom Brokaw. He became friends with Tony Curtis, and they would talk to each other in Yiddish in the store because, like, who else are they going to talk in Yiddish?
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
He also became friends with the almost socialist Palmdale boy, Marion John Wayne. Marion John Wayne. So Nudie would follow John Wayne into the changing room because, as he said, I just want to know what kind of underwear he wears.
Oh my God. Was he Lucy Ricardo?
Would you just step into this wet changing room? The floor is really wet. And just to step away for a second from the glitz and glamour of who was wearing the clothes, the glitz coming off of these clothes were the real story. If we haven't fully explained what a nudie suit is, they were brightly colored and they were bold with their embroideries and liberal use of rhinestones. But what was really so special about them was that they were tailor-made both literally and figuratively to you.
Wow.
It could have your initials stitched on there, yes, but it would also have your entire image or your personality stitched into it.
Yeah, that's the kind of custom stuff that I really like.
Absolutely. It's not just like, oh yeah, it's 32 by 30.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I got that itty bitty waist.
Oh yeah, you have no neck, so I have to like build down the shoulder pads or whatever. Right. It's like, you like were good at math in the 4th grade.
Yeah,
I'll incorporate that.
Oh, so your body fits into the suit that David Byrne wore? Okay. So
your outfit is not just the suit he was wearing, it's also David Byrne wearing it. Your suit is David Byrne wearing the big suit.
It's the only way that it'll fit onto you. So it wasn't just like those, but you know, it was a suit for you. It could be a scene from one of your songs, like a guy sitting in jail or a train. I saw one that had Humpty Dumpty embroidered on it.
Oh, I love that.
Or it could just be what embodied you. It could be a deck of cards. It could be horseshoes. One of them had piping on the coat pockets that looked like this singer's smile. Like he was known for this like kind of crooked grin, and the piping on his shirt pockets looked exactly like that.
Oh, I love that.
Like I said, there was the musical notes on Hank Williams' suit and the drugs all over Graham Parsons' suit. Each suit was a wearable work of art, and you could rest assured knowing it was definitely one of a kind.
That's incredible work.
It's really exciting. But by the heyday of nudie suits, it wasn't just nudie sitting there sewing things. There was a dedicated tailor there named Jaime Castaneda. There were the embroiderers Viola Gray and Rose Clements. The head designer eventually became a guy named Manuel Cuevas, who went on to open his own store and carry on the style to become a legend in his own right. This guy, Manuel Cuevas, brought Mexican and indigenous elements to the designs, and I believe worked with Edith Head for a while.
Oh, really?
I'm surprised you didn't know that, huh? Interesting.
Weird. I guess you didn't really do research on it. I wonder how much of you made up.
I guess I'll just do research for everybody. There were dedicated boot makers in there. There were leather workers, aka leather daddies, but the store wasn't, so it was a full staff. This wasn't just Nudie's work. It was a full staff of people. But the store wasn't just for the rich and cowboys. Nudie said you don't have to have cows to be a cowboy. You could buy much less involved suits at the shop for about $100, which is
okay.
You know,
that's very reasonable of him.
It's not going to have like cactus all over it, but it's going to be a nice tailor-made suit.
Yeah.
They also published the Western style roundup catalogs to promote what they had in the store. The catalogs would begin with an introduction from Nudie himself saying, "Dear friends, I am Nudie, the tailor. And my custom is fine clothing for countless Western stars, Sunday riders, dudes, and honest-to-goodness wranglers, cowpokes, and rodeo folks."
This sounds like it should be over a loudspeaker.
I know, with like slow guitar picking.
At, what's the hillbilly part of Disneyland?
The Country Bear Jamboree.
It sounds like it should be played overhead at the Country Bear Jamboree.
"Hi, folks. I'm a talking bear."
Yeah, I'm Big L.
"Hi, folks. I'm a racist leftover character from Song of the South."
And all shucks to that. All shucks to those allegations.
I'm not going to let you cancel me like you did Spade Cooley. So they also did embroidery for horses in the store. Like you could get I've seen the saddles and things. It's like these horses are wearing nicer clothes than I will ever wear.
They measure horses, don't they?
That's what a lot of people asked when they came in. And Nudie himself, of course, was as hard to miss as his clothes, which he was always wearing, by the way.
Sure. In my head, I know what he looks like, but right now, you talking about him, I try to flash in my head like someone's spotting him, and I just saw Cal Worthington. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, I could see people like if you had never seen Nudie Cohn, you would assume he was Cal Worthington.
He looked like Cal Worthington, yeah. Who fought in a duel at Sundown one time.
Yeah, they went.
High noon.
They one time walked through the same door at the same time, and they Freaky Friday'd. So they are the same person. He was a big personality, and you knew whenever Nudie was in the room. He became a celebrity in his own right and was on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine.
Oh my!
But he recorded his own album in 1974 called Nudie and His Mandolin.
Oh no!
And it was 12 tracks of silence.
No.
What? It only took him 40 years to get the courage to do it again.
And becoming the most like fashionable Western designer for him to even be bold enough.
Okay, so his absolutely ridiculous car.
Yes.
A car dealer named Art Miller gave a car to Nudie to decorate as he deemed fit as a way to drum up publicity for his dealership, and this sparked an obsession that got crazier and crazier and spread out over 18 different cars that he did the following to.
Okay.
Basically, think a Cadillac if it got put in the machine from The Fly with a cowboy riding a bull, like with his guns drawn. He mounted steer horns on the front of them. Silver dollars were inlaid all along the inside panels, and then the guns. The door handles were 6-shooters. The emergency brake and turn signal were Derringers. The stick shift was also a gun that you had to pull the trigger to shift the gears. Then there were rifles mounted on the sides just for the hell of it.
Fantastic.
In all, each car had about 14 guns attached to it. And then to top things off, there was often a little horse saddle in between the seats for kids to ride on. A situation I would want my child in less I cannot think of. Like, I can't imagine a more dangerous car to be driving.
If you hit the horn, it just says Second Amendment real loud. And that's how you know that you were in his way.
Second Amendment, Second Amendment. Pry it out of my cold, dead hands. So he had to get a special letter from the LAPD that this car was allowed on the road.
Oh my God. This driving weapon is legal and allowed to be on the road.
An outrageous thing to see. Like a more dangerous Jay Leno on the road. Like I said, 18 of these cars were made. Usually they were Pontiac Bonnevilles or Cadillacs. Today, we only know the location of 9 of these, one of which is in the Valley Relics Museum, which we got to see.
And it's startling when you see it up close how cool it is.
It's outrageous.
I didn't even know much about Nudie when I saw it. I just knew that he was like a fashion cowboy guy. But when I saw him, like, oh, I think I whoever this guy is, I
understand this man.
I understand this man, and I think I like him a lot.
So some of these cars he had made for himself, some he designed for other people, like Benny Binion of Binion's Casino in Las Vegas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He made one for him. But Nudie would drive this all around town. Here's another joke, like a deactivated gun-toting Jay Leno, and he'd cruise over to the Roxy or the Whiskey or the Rainbow Room to try to draw in new customers.
Wow.
He's
like the guy in Psycho that she robs all the money from, but like a cool one, a cool version of that guy that she steals the money from.
This guy doesn't deserve to be robbed. So he was a ham for sure, but he was also a caring guy. He would forgive the debt of people who were struggling and couldn't pay him back. He'd bail his friends out of jail. He'd drive to poorer neighborhoods and pass out cash with a sticker of his face on them and would tell people, when you're sick of looking at me, just rip it off and spend it.
Cool. That's very nice of him.
So he never really lost touch with the pretty rough past that he had come from. He would also sometimes purposely wear mismatched boots to keep him grounded to the days when he couldn't even afford matching shoes.
Wow.
And just to keep himself humble, he would go to open mics and never just to hear people laughing, not with him, but at him.
At him. Purposely at him. And the mandolin came out like, okay, that's for Nudie Cohn, everybody. Let's keep it going.
That's for Nutia. What's your name? Cola?
Coca-Cola? Nudie Coca-Cola?
Yeah, Nudie Pootie Patootie, whatever it is. And more than one person has made the connection that his whole famous Nudie design style is very similar to the traditional folk clothing patterns of his home country of Ukraine. So,
wow, that's interesting.
It is really interesting that this what became the iconic American cowboy look is actually pretty much based in traditional Ukrainian clothing.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
So Nudie lived to be 81, dying on May 9th, 1984 in my beloved Burbank. His eulogy was given by Dale Evans, who is a woman.
Yeah.
When he died, you could just faintly hear the sound of rhinestones knocking. If you listen closely, you can hear the sound of rhinestones knocking on the wind, and that's when you know a Nudie gets his wings.
They had a 21 salute.
A 21 rawhide salute. So the store was run for a while by Bobby and their daughter Barbara, who was married to Cuevas for a while. But in 1994, Nudie's Rodeo Tailors was closed for good. Their granddaughter, who changed her last name to Nudie and wrote a book about him, which I have right here.
Oh, cool.
Opened up a Nudie's coffee shop in Valley Village for a while, but that's gone too.
Oh.
There is, however, Nudie's Honky Tonk in Nashville that has, you guessed it, the longest bar in Nashville, inlaid with 10,000 silver dollars. So now we know how long it is. It's 10,000 silver dollars long.
That's how they measure stuff in Nashville.
Yeah.
How many silver dollar? How many RFK heads is this? Is that RFK or JFK on the silver dollar?
I don't think it's RFK. I don't think he quite got to the status of being on currency.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, I didn't know.
It's probably Ted. He got on Sirhan's currency. Okay, if you know what I mean. But the Nudie legacy still lives on. There are a lot of modern musicians and performers of all genres who have either hunted down original Nudie suits to wear on stage or have gotten clothes designed to imitate the Nudie style.
Sure.
Mike Mills of R.E.M., Beck, Jeff Tweedy, Kesha, Post Malone, Lil Nas X, and even Trixie Mattel.
Mm-hmm. Trixie Mattel is very Nudie. I can see that. Yeah.
The clothes are also recognized for their importance, with Nudies being in the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and of course, our beloved Autry Museum has some Nudies on display. And if you see me there, I will be another Nudie on display.
Looking for the Nudies. Hi, Daniel Zaffron. Here for the Nudies.
Try to kick me out. I'm greased up. You can't catch me. They've even gone into the afterlife when Roy Rogers was buried in his Nudie suit.
Whoa, was he really?
So if you've heard all this and thought, hey, this sounds like my style, all you need to do is dig up Roy Rogers' grave. Free Nudies, everybody.
For the price of 2 shovels.
For the price of 2 shovels and your soul.
That's great. I didn't know. I'm a Nudie expert now. I'm an expert on nudes.
Also another, I'm going to go, after this, I will be Googling nudes. I will be Googling Nudies. Expert nudes.
Yeah, expert nudes. Yeah, nudes for all.